All right, today we're looking at a couple different problems. We got lives working last time. Today we're trying to get this new power-up to work. We haven't done any power-ups yet. And this one is a block, right? If you hit it with pop, it will add a new life to your game, or an extra life. So if you right-click on sprites, and you say create sprites. Now if you're using the new version of Game Maker, they just say create, and then you have a big list to choose from. So they've changed the user interface a little bit. So be careful when you create stuff so you create the right thing. But create sprite. I don't know why they keep changing the interface. When you make videos, it's frustrating because now your videos are out of date. So sprite, we'll say life underscore block. So SPR underscore life underscore block. What was that? Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, thanks. So the life block, which one is that? Well, let's import it. Import. There it is. Where's our life block? Right there. Got a little heart on it. It's kind of nice looking. So choose that one. And anything special on this one? No. We don't need to do anything special there. And then on the objects, so let's create that object now. So sprite or object life underscore block. What sprite do we want to use? The life sprite. Since this is a block, we want to make it solid, okay? We also want to make it a child of, well, what do we want to make it a child of? We want to kind of behave like a block one, right? We want it to go away if it gets hit. We want it to bounce off of it. And block one's a wall, so we get the bouncing, I think, from the wall. So I think it's block one we want it to be a child of. But what about the collision then event between this thing and pop? Okay, so we have this set up. Make sure you said solid there. Object block one is the parent. Now we go back to pop. So we go into pop. And we want to add a collision event between pop and the life block that we just made. Okay? So we got that. So what should happen? Okay. So what should we do? Well, we just want to add one to lives, right? So here you might say lives. Here's set life. So drag that into the action window. And we want to add one to life. So the way you do that is you put the number one and say relative. Relative means to add to it. Okay, add whatever is over here to the current value of lives. Problem is, this doesn't work. And the reason it doesn't work is because you're setting the lives on whatever object you're currently working on. And right now we're working on pop. But pop isn't where we're storing the lives. We're storing lives in the controller object. Okay? So just like last time, we have to remember to change this to controller. Now if you have the newer version of Game Maker, this looks a little different. You just have to find the right one. Okay? So make sure that says object controller. Now if we go to our game then, let me go into our room, and I'm going to add one of these life blocks right here in front to see how they work. Make sure you're on the instances layer, not the background layer, and then drag these life blocks on. And what we want to see is when we collide with these, we want it to behave like all the other blocks. It disappears. The only thing different is we want the number of lives to increase. All right, so I've got my life block there. I'm trying running it. It puts my window on the wrong screen, so hang on a second. Okay, so there he is. Bang, and now I have 3 more lives because I wiped out those. Yeah. Whole bunch of lives. Okay, so if you get a million lives, what's going on there, this is kind of funny actually. What you do, what's going on there is your life block doesn't have the parent set correctly. Okay, because if you're not a child of block 1, then it's not going to disappear, which means you're going to collide with it over and over and over again until it gets further enough away, and you get like 1 million lives. It's really cool. Okay? Yeah. So if you're having that problem, that's the problem. You got to make sure the life block is a child of block 1. All right. So we got lives working. That's cool. Now life's complete. We've got a way to lose lives. We've got a way to keep track of lives. We have a way to show it on the screen. Now we have a way of adding to lives. So lives is pretty much done. Yeah, question? It doesn't bounce? Okay. So maybe that's because your life block is not solid, or it might be because block 1 is not a child of wall. So block 1 needs to be a child of wall. The life block needs to be a child of block 1. Is that what you have? And is it solid? Okay. I'm going to pause here then. All right. So here we want to make sure that the parent is, for the block, is object block 1. Okay, so we go to the controller. And what are we checking? Well, we're going to look at the create event. And what we want to do in the create event is we want to set the score to 0. Now, it's probably already being done already. But just to be safe, what I want to do here is to make sure that the score gets initialized to 0. Don't say relative. If you do say relative, what will happen is the game will crash because it will look for that score and perhaps it's not there. So it may crash, I guess, or maybe not. But just don't click on relative. Again, we're setting lives in the controller. Are we in the controller? This is the create event of the controller. So we don't have to go in there and select the controller because we're already in the controller. So we're just setting the score inside the controller to 0. And that's the one that will hopefully get drawn on the screen once we get there. Okay, so now we go to object pop. We're looking at the collision event. Well, actually, yeah, the collision event is actually here on object block 1 with object pop. You have a choice, which side do you want to do the collision event on. So in this case, block 1 is colliding with object pop. What should happen? Well, what you do is you destroy self because, again, we're on object block 1. So here's where we need to update the score. So we go back and set the score again. But this time we do want to click on relative because that's important. So let's say they hit a block. Probably 100 points would be good. So we'll set that to 100. And we'll say relative. If you don't say relative, what happens is the score gets replaced by 100 and your score never goes above 100. It just stays at 100 the whole time. So make sure to click on the relative checkbox, and then you'll be able to do that. Now remember, the score is on the controller, so we can't we can't say self, right? We have to switch over to controller because that's the objects that we're using to actually keep track of the score. So make sure here that you select the score. Now this might look a little different in the newer version of GameMaker, but it's the same idea. And now you're setting the score in the right place. So neither part of this collision has the score in it. The pop doesn't have a score, nor does the block have a score. The one we're using is the controller, so we've got to make sure to choose that in the controller object. Okay, now we have to think about drawing the score. You've got to remember that you can only draw in the draw event. Well, that's not entirely true. I mean, you can draw, we learned last time that you could draw in the draw event or you could draw in the draw GUI event. Either one will work. So, and it's the controller, so we need to go back to the controller and take a look at its draw GUI event, and then that's where we should update the score, because that's where we're drawing lives, if you remember. Okay, so here's the controller, here's the draw GUI event. Again, we switch it over, and then we're drawing our life instances. But again, here, we want to draw our score as well. So we'll type in score here. We can get to the search field. There it is. There's draw score. And we put that. It doesn't really matter the order. You can do the score first or the lives first. But here we're saying score. I think good coordinates for this would be, I don't know, 10 seems to, let's look at life. 10 seems to be okay, and I guess Y is okay. So that's 10 from the top and 10 pixels from the side. Here we'll do the same thing. We want to get past the wall, though. So I was thinking 30. Our wall's 20. If we put in 30, then we're not going to have that problem. And then for Y, I don't know, we're at 10. Why don't we try this one? Let's try 30 as well. Make sure not to click relative here on either one of these. These are absolute. These are absolute positions. So make sure you understand that it's not relative to anything. If you say relative, it'll make it relative to the controller, and wherever the controller is in the room, you'll get some score. So you don't want that. Just keep it in an absolute position. That would be better. All right, let's give it a try and see if we see the score. There we go. We can see the score underneath the stars there. It's a little squashed. We might want to move it down. Other thing I noticed about the score is the font's really awful. So we might want to, I think we do want to change the font so it looks more like a video game rather than a computer program. But now we have a score and it's being updated. Again, the score belongs to the controller, so the controller is the one keeping track of what the score is. See if we get 500 there. We do, I think. We're losing lives. That's good. All right. So it seemed a little squashed. So let's move the score down a bit. Now, if we want to change the font of the score, we have to actually create a font. So here's where you create fonts. You say create font, and brings you up to this window. You'll note here that it uses numbers between 32 and 127. It's using the ASCII code page. So these are all the characters in the ASCII code page in the first half of it, I guess. Well, it's a 7-bit code page, so I guess it's all of it here. But we're starting at 32, which is the space character, and going all the way up to the top. But this font is kind of ugly, right? It would be nice if we could make it look a little bit more like a video game font. So I think this one looks too formal. So there's one I like to use for video games. It's called sans serif, but Comic Sans Serif. So Comic Sans, sometimes they call it. And you can see it looks like lettering you might find in a comic book or something. And so that's the font we're going to use. We could go up and change the name of the font to font something else, but font 0, since we don't have any other fonts, seems fine. We'll just leave the name at font 0. One of the few times where we don't go up and change the name. So now that we have this font, we can use this font to actually set the font before we draw the score, so the font looks a little bit more like a computer game. So where do we do that? Well, I suppose we'd have to do this in the draw event, or the draw GUI event of the controller. So let's go back to the controller. There's the draw GUI event. And then, where would we put this? Well, we want to do it before we actually draw the score. So let's do that. We need to set the font. So let's type in font and see what kind of choices we have. For fonts, that one there, set font. Yeah, that's the one we want. What font do we want to use? Well, the font we just created. So what would that be? That'd be font 0, right? It should list it for us. Yeah, there it is. So just choose that. And then 33. Well, 30 seems a little too close, so we'll say 40. Or 45. 45, we'll do that. All right, so we've got a new font, and we've got it in a new place. I don't see anything about font color. Let's try just color. There's a draw color, but there's not a right color. I don't know if this is the right one. See, there's a text color one. I don't see that. Yeah, I don't remember seeing that. So maybe we do have to use the draw color, even for text. So we'll go back to that, and we'll set the draw color. See if that works. It's white. We have a light background, so we want a darker text font. So maybe dark blue. Maybe there. Not white. No, blue. Dark blue. We have a light blue background, so a dark blue might look nice. Say OK here. So we set the color, set the font, then we draw stuff. Let's try it and see what that looks like. So here we are. There's the score. It looks a little bit more like a video game because you have that score in that comic book style font. And we see our lives as well. Looks like our score's gone up. So yeah, it looks like everything's working. That's good. I used to be better at this game. Not doing so well. Okay. Score's going up like it should. 500 points, I think. Yeah, so I think it's working. Everything is working out. Okay, so what do we have to work on next? We can see lives, we can see score. I'm thinking maybe the next thing we work on is well, we have another power up block. Yeah, this one is an interesting one. It's a split block. Okay, so here, one of the things we need to score is when you hit the squid as well. I was thinking that was happening already, but no. We haven't put the code in yet. So what should happen when pop hits one of the squid objects? Yeah, so that's why I was thinking 500 points was what we need. I thought I had already done that, but It must have been in the previous class. What else needs to get a score? I can't really think of anything else that needs scoring. Oh, yeah, don't forget to do this. You have to make sure you set the score on the controller. Again, we're not in the controller, so we have to go and say, hey, the score's in the controller, and it's the controller showing the score. So make sure to set that to object controller. Okay, let's take a look. I think we're going to create a new sprite here. And what are we going to do with this sprite? Well, what's it for? Let's import that. Choosing the split pop block. Now the idea here is when pop collides with this block, what it does, it gets rid of the block, but it also creates 2 more pops in the location where the current pop is. So it's, instead of 1 pop, you get 3 pops on the screen at the same time. It's kind of like multi-ball in a pinball machine. So we have our sprite. Oh yeah, can't forget to rename it. So sprite, I'd say pop split. That might be a good name. And then after we create the sprite, then we create the object. So here's the object. Object pop split. We use our split sprite that we just created. And make sure to set the parent correctly. So make sure it's also solid. So solid. Set the parent to, I don't know. I think we want to inherit everything from object block 1, which is a child of object wall. So I think it's block 1 where we want that set. And then we should get those behaviors like bouncing and increasing the score done for us automatically. We don't have to do that separately. Okay. So now what should happen when pop collides with the thing? We already have a collision between pop and I guess the block 1, so we can't really override that one. So maybe what we do is we put it on the other side. We say, well, what if pop collides with our split block? So let's add that collision event here. So we add the event. We say collision. Not that one. Oops, that's the wrong one. We already have that one. Oh, okay, I better fix that. Yeah, it's actually a collision between pop and object pop split. So that's a new one. What should happen in the action window? Well, I think what we want is to create 2 more pops. So we type in the word create. Use the light bulb. The little light bulb means to create something, I guess. And here's, don't get these confused. You want to make sure it's object pop. And we want to create it relative to wherever the current pop is. So we would say relative. Make sure you're on the instances layer. And then I guess we have to just do it again. So yeah, just drag another one of these out there. One of those create instances. So, and we do the exact same thing. We create it where the current pop is. There's pop. Yeah, that's the same. And that'll create 2 more pops. So if 1 pop hits this block, you'll have that 1 pop plus 2 more. That gives you 3 pops. All right. Now what? We go to the create event. Now what would these pops do? Well, in the create event of pop, right, it's going to kind of set a direction pointing up. It gives it a speed of 5, and then sets the gravity for that one too. So just like at the beginning of the game, but it could be anywhere in the screen this time, not just the middle of the screen. It could be anywhere pop is. All right. So let's put some of these in room 2. I think I have my cheat, so we can get to room 2 pretty fast. So which one do we need? This one. And I'm just going to grab a few of these, or maybe just one. You want to make these a little bit harder to get to because they are quite powerful if you put them together, or lots of them together. So you'd have to break through this wall before you get to that star. So let's see what happens when we run the game. All right, so here, I'm just trying to get to the second room here. Ah, there we go, finally. Question, what's the question? Yeah. It takes me about a day to grade everything. You know how tired I am of playing this game? I've been doing this game for 18 years or so. Okay, so here's the split pop. And we'll see if we can do this without killing everything. Okay, so here we go. Let's see if it hits it. Bing. And now you have 3 pops. Oh, we have a problem. See how it put the pop back? We lost a life. Oops. Okay. Yeah, so we have a problem here. Anyone see the problem? Yeah, what do you think the problem is? Yeah, so if we put 3 pops out there and they all fall out of the room, we just lost 3 lives. Right? That doesn't seem fair. This made it even worse. Watch this. If you do this instead. So this is funny. If I hold down the Alt key, I can just paint these on. And if I put a whole bunch of these in there, let's say like this. It's not done very well. But say I have a whole lot of these in the room. The effect is kind of cool. I think I have my cheat in there, so let me just use my cheat to go to the next room. Okay, I'm going to cheat. Here's my cheat. Now watch. Whoa! But notice, I ran out of lives, okay? I ran out of lives. Why did I run out of lives? I have 1 million pops still on the screen. Why am I out of lives? Well, remember, yeah, every time a pop falls out of the room, it takes a life away. So what do we have to do to get the behavior we want? We probably, well, I'm thinking what we do is we only take a life away if it's the last pop in the room, right? That means you've all the other pops have fallen off the screen didn't take a life away, but the last one is the important one, okay? If the last one falls out of the room, then you should lose a life, okay? So let's try that. So where do we do that? Where do we count how many pops are in the room? Or we don't even count that. We're here. Yeah, question. Okay, so I'll come over and help in a second. Yeah. So I guess we have to go to object pop, and we want to see when pop goes outside the room. When pop goes outside the room, we want to do all these things, right? Set lives. But we only want to take one away from life if it's the last one, okay? If it's the last one, then that's when we take. So we actually have to figure out if it's the last one. How do we do that? Any ideas? Well, we could count. Remember, we count up the number of squids in the controller. We could count the number of pops on the screen. So we'll do that first. We can say, what object are we counting? Well, we're counting object pops, right? And then we want to, the variable we would say num pops, let's say, or num underscore pops. I keep using my Java naming conventions, but it's here. Num pops. We'll make this separate. And it would be better to take lives away before you check it. So take lives away first and then count them up, okay? Because if you get to 0, that means that's the last one, right? So we say we take one away from lives. If that was the last one, well, no. We don't want to take one away until we count it. So yeah, I'm confused. I'm sorry. This has to happen first, okay? We only want to take lives away if there's no more pops. What am I forgetting to do here? Oh, there's a big problem here. Yeah, this is why I'm confused. It's because we're forgetting to delete pop. We forgot to delete them. Ooh. Yeah, that's a problem. So first thing we have to do before we start counting anything is we have to destroy pop. Boy, I didn't realize that was there. So grab that. We are in pop, right? Object pop. So we want to destroy instance of self. Are we in object pop? Yeah, we're in object pop. So we destroy ourselves. That's the first thing we do. And then we count. Okay. Now, if we destroy ourselves and there's no more pops, then we need to do the rest of this stuff. But if there is more pops, we just want to ignore it and not do anything. So we have to ask one of those if questions. So if we want this if statement to be right here. Yeah, question, Renner. Well, there's another one there, isn't there? Yeah, I thought we forgot to do that. Okay. Yeah. So get rid of this one. You have to be careful, though. See, watch what happens sometimes. If I delete that, it says, "Are you sure?" Yeah, I guess that's right. Okay. That sounded painful. Okay, so here's a destroy instance, right? We want to destroy the instance of it. It looked like we already had it down here. I just didn't see it. But we destroy the instance. We've got to do that first. Then we count. Then we count the instances of pops. And then what? This is where we ask the question, right? If lives. This will have to be inside here. So let's do that. No, that's all messed up. So we'll have to work on it. So destroy the instance, get the instance count. This is where we, okay, so destroy the instance of self, get the instance counts of pop, and then before we take one away from lives, we have to check to see how many pops we have. So remember, we stored that in this variable up here, num pops. So instead of variable, you would say num underscore pops. Now, we could say equal to 0, but if we really want to be a defensive programmer, I would say less than or equal to 0. Say for some reason you get a negative number from this count. You still want to take a life away. But this won't work the way it's set up right now. It's because this if statement isn't controlling anything. See how these things are all at the same level of the if statement, and this line goes from there to there? This needs to be controlled by the if statement. Now, to move a whole section of code like this and not mess it up is kind of hard. You have to select each one. So you select that one, and then hold down your Shift key and select all the other ones that are below it. You have to do that one at a time. Okay, so now they're all selected. Once they're all selected, you can now drag it. You have to drag it once. It thinks you're trying to move it to just horizontally, but drag it again. Drag it up maybe first. I can't get it to drag. There it goes. And then make sure it gets connected to the right side of the if statement. It has to be the whole structure, though. Okay? That's really hard to do in this user interface. It's really, really a pain. The thing you have to be super careful of is this else down here. You got to make sure it belongs to this if statement, not to that one. Because if it's connected to the wrong one, say this is still out there, then the program will not work at all. So just make sure this whole structure that we had there, set lives, if lives, create instance of a pop start. If there's no more lives, then tell them they've lost. All of that needs to be controlled by this if statement. That only happens when there's no more pops left. So let me try this now. Okay, so here's our code. Let me go to the next room. And what we're trying to do is see if we can actually get to the end without, I'll just let all the pops die. So hopefully we had more than 3 pops. Notice that our lives are still there. They didn't all disappear, even though we had so many pops. And so I think, let's try that one more time so you can see it. Do I have a restart room? I don't. Okay, so here we go again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yeah, so lots of pops left the room. We didn't lose all our lives, and we're able to complete the room too. It's kind of fun with this one. You can put a whole bunch of them there. So now we've got the pop splits working out. What I worry about, see how our little live pictures up here are the same thing as down here. So they might think those are in the game, but they're just static pictures. So I'm not sure about this. Maybe we put hearts there. I don't know. But this is a kind of a cool technique. If you put this on your last room, kind of like on your as a treasure room, you can put like the whole screen of that. I think you've already done that. It's kind of fun to watch. It just completely explodes, and you got a million pops on the screen. So it's kind of fun, very exponential. Okay, and it looks really cool. Visually, it's pretty neat. Okay, so now we have lots of things done. We've got, what did we get done today? We got the life block working. We got the split part working. We've got scores being shown and is working, it seems. We have a couple more things. We have a couple more things we have to fix. We still have that problem where pop gets stuck on the sides over here. If it's right in the corner, I don't know if I can recreate it, but it's really hard to recreate. But it gets stuck in the corners. Yeah, so I'll try to recreate that one. I really have to analyze that. to figure out what to do. The next thing we have to do, there's a solid block. This is like a wall. It just doesn't go away, but it looks like a tile or a block. Anything else? Yeah, what I do is I look at the sprites, right? So if I go here, I'm not really changing the wall sprite. I just grab one of the sprites and say import. I just want to see all the pictures, right? What haven't we done yet? Well, this one here, the double block one. This one is, you hit it once, it changes itself into a block 1, and then you hit it again. So it takes 2 times to get through this one. So we've got to do that one. There's the solid block. So we have to do that one still. Oh, see these buttons? That's we actually have a user interface. Now we'll have buttons on like a start screen. We'll also learn how to save our game. Say you have a game you want to be able to save your progress in. We can do that in Game Maker, which is cool. Here's a congratulations screen when they get to the end, so we've got to put that in there. And then here's like a title screen. We use that with the buttons, okay? And then then I think we're good. Anything else we have to worry about? Oh yeah, and the other big thing is in this game, you have to create your own power-up. Or it could be a power down as well. And it has to be unique, not one that somebody else is doing in the classroom or in the other class. So start thinking about a block that you might add to your game to give you a power-up. And what kind of power-up you would do that? It's got to be more than just, hey, if you hit this block, you get 1,000,000 points. No, it has to change the behavior of the game for a little while, and it has to be timed. It has to last for maybe 5 seconds, and then it goes away, just like normal power-ups. Okay, so start thinking about which power-ups you're going to be using when we do this game. All right. Okay, I'll stop talking now.